Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Bet you didn't expect me to come back to this series so fast, but to be fair, I was kinda late to the bandwagon, so they released both games by the time I want to play them, so you know what? Last waiting for me. So, spoiler alert, I think this game has a lot of shoes to fill because of the first game. I think the first game is quite solid, so how did it fare for the second season? Let's get the housekeeping out of the way. The production quality is still excellent, they even paid attention to the angle at which you enter the scene in one of the episodes, which I don't want to spoil, but really just props to them for paying attention to the details. They got the subtitle 95% there, as there is some minor scenes where they forgot to put in the subtitles, but overall the translation quality is better than average if I'm being honest. Reading back from my notes of the previous game, they now don't require a minimum level of affection to pass a chapter, but I do wish they showed the relationship indicators in the flowchart so that it's easier for multiple playthroughs, but you know what? I'll take it. I also want to highlight the QuickTime events do affect the outcome, but it is nothing to write home about because it is too far in between. But I like what they did in terms of getting the endings. I feel like our choices do matter more compared to the previous game where it is ridiculously high to get the perfect ending. But you can also get the bad ending no matter how high the affection is, which really shows that no matter how right you get it in terms of the journey, but if in the end you kind of fumbled it, then yeah, you're not getting the girl. And it also reflects on how you react when in their time of need. I'm only confused by the item collection mechanic of the game, as some items you can only get from other paths, but some outright came from the future and you need to go back to use it in certain paths. So, do the items we collect transcend time and space? Did the protagonist forget that he had it this entire time? Here's an example. You see this stone right here? And by the way, I want to highlight, I think definitely someone in the writing team has a foot fetish. But anyway, you see this stone right here? You're only able to get this stone if you go with this path, but you never go through this if you went with Gyuri's path here anyway. So yeah, it's just really a nitpick, but I don't mind it because it does encourage players to do other paths and they may stumble upon it by accident or by choice. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the meat of the game, which is its writing, because let's all be honest here, we play these games for the plot. No, not that plot, actual plot. But in all seriousness, if the game writing straight up sucks, it wouldn't feel like a satisfying game to go through, nor to reach the ending. So I feel like there are three takeaways from the story. First, I feel like the premise of the season being that Yuman got into a car accident saving someone, and so there's a time jump of about 6 months and he's still recovering from his injury. I think it's a good choice as it is a good jumping point on how to reset the story while also giving opportunity for older cast to jump in while also introducing new ones. So I think it's a very smart choice. Second, I feel like the writing effort given to the character has a clear unfair advantage for the half compared to the other half of the cast. Let me explain. One half is given backstories and empathetic flashbacks to flesh out the characters like Malsuk, Gyuri. We have a whole chapter dedicated to flashbacks, and that is just straight a disrespect to the other characters because the favoritism is kind of obvious. It's kind of hard to compete with this much backstory. And then there's the other half, which is just there with no clear conflict or goal, especially for Gran, Minjung, and Yuna. I'm sorely disappointed for Minjung because she's like my second favorite character in the first game, but she's just kind of plain and boring in this game. Minjung has this forced conflict of libel
Slander is spoken. In print, it's libel.
due to misinformation in the newspaper, while Gran has this forced competition. I mean, the protagonist has a competition with another guy that is fairly unattractive. I'm not trying to be mean here. I mean, because the way that the game portrays him is like a running gag. So, you can't blame me. And lastly, Yuna feels like a repeat of story beats of Grant from the previous game, of finding yourself beyond the wealth that will inevitably be passed on to you by your parents, which is not even stated clearly the entire game. She just passed off as a spoiled rich kid that doesn't want to do hard work until the end, where she tries to do something, but she never tells us to begin with. And so the ending kind of feels out of nowhere, especially the bad ending. Well, technically, the ending you meet the mom, in which she kind of reveals the entire thing, but at that point you're not invested in the character because like you didn't really explain it clearly throughout 6 chapters. Okay, like you had 6 chapters to explain her conflict, and instead you just pass it on as a girl that Yuman saves, so she has a guilt. But then yeah, like that whole conflict of trying to find herself is not clearly stated at all. And she also has the same conflict of arranged marriage. There's just this rude guy who wants to get back together with Yuna just because. I don't blame the actress here because it's not her fault. She's just doing her part. But I feel like the writer has clear biases and favoritism in the writing. And also last but not least, I really want to point this out. Do you guys notice the title? Okay, read the title. Okay, and then look at how many girls there are. Okay. Okay, you know what? There's the discrepancy. It's supposed to be 5 hearts, but there's 6 girls. Look, if you're being generous here, I feel like Yujing, Yujong. But anyway, I feel like Yujong, to be fair, doesn't live in that house for too long because she works everywhere. But like, still, I feel like the amount of characters in this game is a detriment to the writing quality, as I have stated before. It just feels a bit too cluttered and unfocused. In conclusion, do I think this game improved upon the predecessor? I do think they improved the gameplay and the quality of life, and the dialogue choices do matter. It does feel like it has an impact. And if it wasn't obvious, because they make the bad ones fairly obvious, because it's a cringe and you just feel bad for picking that option to begin with. Yeah, the bad options in this game is just straight up makes you a toxic friend overall. But I feel like the writing in this game has higher highs compared to before, but it do felt a bit cluttered and not enough breathing room to equally flesh out all the characters. But nonetheless, it is still a solid and pleasant experience. Feels more realistic than before, especially with how vital the dialogue choices is in the end, so you don't rely on your relationship meter too much. I would say go play it, especially if you have played the previous one. And if you haven't played the previous one, I feel like both of them are solid to begin with. So yeah, thank you for watching. And as for the next video, I don't know yet.